Good morning, class. Welcome to Homeroom with Unc and Market Monk.
Morning, Pete. How's your week?
Really good. Software kind of carried it for me. Just had quite a bit of SaaS going on. Some of it I bought last week, and then Monday just on the drop. Pretty heavy into Snow, MDB, PanW, it's a bunch of a bunch of them that were right at pretty good levels that we talked about for a while. So yeah, so mostly stuck on that. Still, MSTR had some runners there that did well too. But yeah, overall, really good. Just it was nice to see market actually make a sustained move and keep it for a bit.
Yeah, Monday. I checked out early on that Monday. Just felt we'd really stay inside of range, and quite frankly, kind of tired of the having to find trades constantly and then playing back to a level. So I kind of just bagged it up for the week. Um, some bigger swings that I believe in. Put some buy orders in. Hoping the market would stay red, and they never really came around. I was a little too cheap, but surprising towards the end of the week. Did have that one momentum runner I played a little bit on Friday just because of that computer, that Weight Watchers. But other than that, kind of a light week. When I came back and looked at the streams, I was definitely shocked on how far the market had come. I was
Yeah.
instantly looking for news, like what happened, and the only thing I've seen is that the back and forth with the Fed. Um, Being fired or not fired, like Trump can do that or something, and just goes to show you how big of a move we're gonna get and how big moves are when you get some certainty in almost anything,
Yeah.
and that's what we're lacking currently, and hopeful that it's here within the next couple of weeks, but you're still gonna get these overreactions both ways, I think, until we get that clarity. So um, always good for anybody, and they say less is more, and that applies to everybody. Sometimes it's good to just take a step back, and last week that was it for me.
Yeah, and well, I think within the administration, I kind of see sort of as like a Besant, I guess Lutnick's the other guy. Kind of going back, they're like the sort of back and forth. Like he comes out, tries to calm things. Um, Lutnick sometimes his quotes are a little more alarming, and it just sort of seems to trigger some algo activity sometimes. But yeah, you just got to be careful with that. And Nvidia called up here. I mean, if the market gets certainty and the good times are rolling, this is 140 plus in a blink. I mean, it's
Yep.
just what's going to happen. Um, but at the same time, I twice now have said like mid 90s, 95 Nvidia spot, and then it's 111 now. So when I post setups like that, and I had several early in the week. There was Snow and um, some other SaaS names and things. Like if you're not on that and getting on it when it's down there, this idea of like trying to come back to it every day. What about Nvidia now? What about now? What about now? And you're doing that as it's going up, 110 and 115 and 120, and then you keep doing that, and then it has another one of these bad days. It does 100 tests or 102 or whatever. Um, Pretty ridiculous to me to have done that when a couple of days ago it was $95. But when you get these opportunities, I'm not saying that you just diamond hand and hold the whole thing, but I mean, it's better to just have a plan to I'm just going to keep some. I'm not just going to be all in and then all out every single day and scalp a 1 minute chart. Um, you have to that can't be all you do. So I post option notes every day. I try to find some setups, but I think it was Tuesday or Wednesday, or actually I think it was Wednesday. Yeah, it was Wednesday. I was like, the first thing I said was I should have bought this stuff I posted 2 days ago. That's my first note of the day. And then, okay, well, here's UNH or here's, whatever that I'm looking at. But I'm at that point much smaller in those trades. So when it comes to like use the work, take advantage of some of the bigger opportunities here. And I would just sort of ask with Nvidia at $95, what are you really afraid is going to happen at that point? I mean, is it likely that it's going to fall to like $70? Don't really think so. So I would just have a plan like, yeah, it can go lower from 95, but the plans from there are buys, not panic, right? So I just, as we get these dips and these opportunities, you're really gonna wish you did a little more. The point at which things kind of level out and the market grinds back up, and the monthly chart wins the day, like always seems to happen. So that's kind of my attitude going into this is a little more focus on the red days. Don't get caught up in the doom. Look for opportunities. I think that's really the way to approach it.
The first thing that pops in my head is Nvidia. Nvidia chart ain't leveling out. It's a leader.
Yeah,
It's going to lead the
right.
market. It's not going to consolidate at 105 and 95 for 3 months. That's not going to happen.
Yeah,
It's gonna
right.
go 92 to 120, and it's going to live inside that range. And if you're on a minute, 5 minute, 15-minute chart, even, you're not going to see the overall picture of Nvidia. Um, kind of goes hand in hand with the note that I had here. Levels traded when you're trading a level and the move just didn't happen, you still get 10%. And what I mean by that is, I mean, that's my entire system. Is I find these big support and resistances that, you can get your entry. I mean, literally just set an alert on them, and get an entry off of that level. It's been 105 for me. I know you're a little cheaper on the video, but that's just what my system has kicked in. Is
Yeah,
that auto RTL 105? Um, if you're just use that as a pivot, you can trade 10% on that all day. I think the more bigger problem is currently is people want to get into a trade like that, and then all right, we're gonna go to the moon, and
yeah,
the plan becomes I'm holding this shit until I'm red or I get to the moon, and you're missing several trades in my opinion. You're not just missing a trade, you're missing several trades, and um, maybe even missing your education on the chart. Um,
yeah.
so for me, it's you have to, especially in this environment. Excuse me, especially in the environment we started in. Everything but maybe um, that August to January. I don't know when the bottom is, and then last year through the October. Just hold on. Outside of those two markets, taking your 10-20%, scaling in and out of trades is just where it's at, and learning charts is just normally how the market's gonna work. If you go look at S&P averages over like the last 20 years, 10, 12, 15% are considered great years. So if you can do that on a trade in 4 hours or a week, it's a great trade. And you just got to get the moon out of your mindset. Do they happen? Yes, but those happen with at bats, as we call it. You got to get up to the plate over and over again. And you'll eventually see the difference in, okay, this is going to just stay in the range, move 10, 15%, whatever the natural range may be. Or, okay, this is the start of a bigger move. And
Yeah,
and one more thing there, Pete. And if for me personally, I'll just let the cat out of the bag. I'm not playing a larger or a full position from a red candle buy. I'm looking for the high or low. Like a good example right now is that Chewy 32. Like that's where I want to go all in because I have confirmation that we're building support on a historical level after we already found the bottom, and you see that over and over again. And those are the ones that I really try to attack. That's gonna be Nvidia from 120 or 130, not 105. But it's tradable down here in this range, and if you don't have time like I do, it's still gonna be your best entry.
yeah, absolutely. And so yeah, real quick on Nvidia, it's just another one of the situations where option pivots bracket your larger level.
Yeah,
That's where 90, because it's 95 and 120 for me.
yeah, yeah.
Like that, do that. And then so Tesla, kind of another good example of late. Um, living in these pivots, that's a big freaking range right there, 220 to 280, and it's done it several times right now. And they just had earnings. All these people are just baffled Tesla would go up on earnings, numbers they had, and all that.
Tesla
I
went
think
up on Elon Musk saying he's going to go back to work, not their numbers.
exactly, yeah. Some of those numbers could come and bite them later. That can fuel the downside moves if the market wants to pout about them. But yeah, Elon's involvement has always been such a big key, especially now. So yeah, so this just flew through the zone. But yeah, the question I don't want to get from here is, hey, what about Tesla? This is what this is what happens, and it's always people who just kind of in the room hanging out, and I'm gonna be like that. That's fine. That's fine. But I do think that you're missing kind of some easy mode trades. If you were just bought, I don't even care if it's like a share or two
It
shares.
was 10. We talked about it like a week ago.
Exactly. Yeah. Then they're sitting pretty, and keep two of them, and if it wants to go back to $400, then so be it. But you don't need that at that point. So I really
Or
emphasize.
just clear out and take your $400 or $500. I don't get what's hard,
Yeah, exactly.
hard
Right.
about that.
Right. Yeah. 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 So I don't understand that, because to me it's a little more fun to get that experience of hitting things off a level, having some success, rather than just casually coming in. And I think part of it is time. Like, people are doing other things and have jobs, and I'm glad that our rooms like that, instead of just like degenerate 20-year-olds. But at the same time, alerts are a great thing that you can set up in TradingView or whichever, Thinkorswim or whatever, that it's like, well, if it gets to this level, I'm going to buy it, or I at least want to know about it, and I can make a decision. And then understanding that at that point, like, the market isn't on your schedule, but you can do little things to still know what's going on and not have to sit here and stare at a chart every day. We're at a point, we've been doing this long enough. Some of my levels, like, not as old as your levels, but I got some levels that have been around a while. And with this drop in the market, we've been here before several times now, and have a pretty good sense of how the stocks are going to react, how the flow is going to look when they get there. And snow is another good example. Now it's sitting here in the middle of this zone I was in. A lot harder to trade up here. Um, it was when it was dealing with some of those pivots. So again, yeah, I rotate to new things. I look for new things every day. But when something like SaaS is like really popping off for both of us, like, that was a really good moment to get in on those.
Yeah, just looking at the snow chart that you found out, that's one of the few bottom levels we have the same on. I like that there.
Yep.
Yeah, it's the second note I have. I can just apply it to this situation, and Tesla's a little better than the snow for the metrics of it. But if you can't trade a stock from $2.20 to $2.80, probably not going to be able to trade a stock $220 to $280. But it's the same thing. Just your share position is different. It's the same exact thing, and finding value in those. It's kind of how you keep the lights on, and it's how you learn charts, and it's how you get confidence in a chart like snow here. And I remember, I think it was midweek or maybe it was last week's session. You were like, "You're probably going to get my level back on snow," and you were wrong. We got a perfect
I
higher
was
low, but that should be part of your plan and your action to, okay, I have a chance to break through here and and
Yeah,
and
it was
and retrade it, and in the option world, in the share world, okay, I don't expect people to get excited over a $200 trade on a snow chart if you're just trading 10 shares. But in the option world, that 136 to 150 move, um, and then keep a runner after that. I don't see how that's not some people's plans. I mean, if you're not doing that, I think you're wasting time on options.
Yeah, when I made that comment, it was right here,
Yeah, yeah,
and I had bought under this line, and with the idea that I'm going to buy in this zone, try to move into this zone, which is where we're at.
exactly.
So I didn't get. So basically, for me, the position was a lot smaller. It was maybe like a third of what I wanted. Um, and
Exactly.
and then it turned around, and that was fine. And I just, it's a smaller trade. Who cares? But yeah, that's the thing. These pivots. It's not really always guaranteed that it's gonna get down there. But the whole plan is built around that process of it.
Well, that's we don't talk about it a lot because I guess we don't get into preschool education, but that's what strength is. Its strength is
Yeah.
when it doesn't make it to the level, and buyers
Right.
come
Right.
in, and
Yeah.
you get like that. I don't know what do you want here, P? A 4 hour will on a 4 hour here. You have three really good wicks there, and then price starts tightening up. I mean, it's pretty obvious what's going on
Yeah.
from a technical standpoint, and that's kind of like following the chart or knowing the chart. I think we've always had that problem where, well, we've been following these charts for 3-4 years at least, weekly at least, if not daily. Some of them, of course, we know them a little better. So
Right.
get into the story of the charts that you like and reading price action, reading candles, and reading the news, and you'll have that knowledge as well, and you'll have that feel for the stock as well.
Yeah, and just an example of level this like in phase 98.17 over and over and over again, and this is just a 4 hour chart. So like these is fairly recently, over and over and over again. I would hit that, and then the thing about these levels like that is you can test them once too often, and uh, and then you lose it and you break down, and then you're out of the zone. It tries to set up something new, and in this case, it just faded out and just continues to drop. And we talked about this one last week, and my whole plan with phase was built around our conversation, um, which included a little more long dated puts than I normally would do at 45 because 35 is possible. So and I'm like, okay, that's $10. That's $1,000 per contract. If it makes that move down, and if it doesn't, it's hedged and whatever. But yeah, I mean, so stocks aren't going to live in a zone forever. I mean, some are going to break to
No.
the upside, some down. Apple 132 isn't coming back. Um, but yeah, I mean that's the thing about pivots too. That
Yeah, I think some. I mean, just looking at Enphase here. Like that offered you 6 trades off your 98 level, and you really
yeah,
never even. I mean, if you had a 5% stop loss, it wasn't even flirting with that. And I think a
right,
lot of people, if they miss the first one, they just think it's over. And um, yeah, it's one of my favorite setups. Rocket Lab next. Um,
yeah,
just play the channel. Just play the channel, and then ask for updates constantly. And even I mean, you ain't showing the whole chart, but if we just take this small example here, yeah, you could have won 5 or 6 trades off your level, and then you lost one. And with proper wish management, you're still way ahead. Even on your
yeah.
78 level, you were offered one trade, and then it really never gave you an entry back for a second. So, um, yeah, just having that plan of act for me, like if you have lines on your chart like this and you're not trading, the only thing you're missing is the goddamn plan. So, um,
Yeah.
you know, keep your basket small and just really focus on the plans. On maybe you need to slow it down a little bit and have focus on 3 or 4 stocks and make plans just on those. And
Right.
until you master that, it's really going to be hard for you to swim to something new. Unless you're blindly following. But the flip side of that always comes back to me is um, not taking money, not taking profit when the move actually happens.
Yeah, and I've posted my list before of it's a little different now, but like with like well with option trades, and this was when the market was just sort of grinding up. I'm like, well, these are the four I kind of look at first, and
Hmm.
and sort of stick to those. And then usually there's one or two that something coming off of earnings or catalyst, or I got a lot better about news since we've been working together. Finding the moves off that, and then that's pretty much it. I mean, my notes are the same ones over and over again, and then as sectors move, I haven't talked about John Deere in a while because it just sort of took way the hell off from my levels, but that one used to be in there every day, or UNH, or whatever, and that's kind of how I do things. And then our weekend work that we do is really, I think, enough to carry most people. I mean, if you want to do the trades every day and you're into options, yeah, my notes there are a good place to go. But the bulk of my attention, despite that, is still 80% in that work we do, and it's rarely I'm usually not in all of them because they're conditional, right? Like they have
Sure.
I want it here, but typically I'm in 4 or 5 of those to some degree, and that's what moves my account and keeps me going and does all this. So
Well, I
that's
think.
where.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
I'll
go ahead.
finish that thought.
Oh yeah, I mean that's just where you want to be, and I've talked about 80/20 for a long time. 80% shares, 20% options, and I'm someone who's good at options. If you're not as good as me at that, I don't know why you're buying more options than shares at that point, I guess.
Well, the divergence between us two is pretty dynamic, and it has. I mean, it's probably gotten closer the longer we go on. I've converted you to the dark side, but even if you go back to the beginning, my shit is simple. I've stood on it the entire time. We've traded no matter the market. My trading counts around 50K. I'm trying to flush that whole thing each week for 10%. And that's just kind of how I look at it. And the the closing trades on that are usually in the realm of 15-20% on the high, and then 5-7% on the low, and you just win off the ratio in that regard. You more winners than losers, and then your winners are a bigger percentage than your losers, and there's enough for me to do that. And I just assume a lot of people aren't flushing that much weekly, are trading that much weekly. And then you go to the other end, and I don't know your exact count setup, but you're definitely not spending that much, and your trades are $3 to $400 trades usually. So we cover a pretty big gamut. No matter you just got to find your lane between those two. And the commonalities between us is there's not a lot of just holding hope. There's a lot of rinse and repeat, and you have to master those things no matter how you're kind of trading. I can't use the push the shares anymore because you're doing that yourself a lot better than when we started. Um, but everyone has to find that mix for them, and then get back to just some reasonable expectations with what you got. I mean, if you only have the 10-15K, and you're making $500 to $1,000 a week off of that, you should be really happy. You really should be really happy. And I think a lot of people got into this game and are still looking for the one and done, or the one and life change, or the one that I can brag about on Fridays to my friends. And um, that's just not gonna last. And even if you do hit it, you're probably gonna fuck it up the second time you try it. So that's why we've lasted so long, I think, P, is because we do stick to certain rules, and we don't get
Yeah.
caught up in becoming conspiracy theorists because we're tripling down on something that's just bullshit. Um, our early wrong is better, and we've definitely mastered that, and just keep grinding forward with looking for that next setup. But that next setup isn't the moon. Um, we come across those occasionally, like you know the whales are showing their hand, and that's what creates the plays to go to the moon. It's not it's just because it's this name and it's a Tuesday.
Yeah, and on the option side, you don't you don't need to spend 90% of your trades to make money with options. But the problem that people run into is that, heck, you could bat 400 on options and do really well, but it's what kind of loss you take on the ones that you lose on. That's
Yes.
what matters. Is if you're losing 80% of what you put into it, that's pretty hard to make up. Then you need the home run. If you're cutting it 15% or 20%, 30%, you can do okay, because the 30% on that you're losing on that is, I mean, should be like $50, like,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, I feel you.
then you get, and then the wins you get are 50, 80%, whatever. And so if you're getting a ratio like that, you're doing okay. You If your stop's too tight on options, you can get stopped out just on the spread.
Yes.
So that's you can't go 5% with that. So that's why you just have to, and like these numbers, like for when you're comparing it to shares, are kind of scary what I'm throwing out there, which is
Mm-hmm.
why like I don't size up with them ever. Like, why would you do that? Right? So like you want maybe enough contracts where it's like, this isn't a one and done. I could take a win quickly and then I'm still in it. um but it's not 10 $500 contracts. I never would do that. So it's you just have to keep it comfortable, where you psychologically can deal with the moves like that, and then you can do pretty well with it. But yeah, big discipline on what you're willing to lose, and you sure as hell don't start averaging down that stuff, or the word full port just makes my skin crawl. Um, and I mean, that's just where the Twitter guys are, and yeah, like full port. I mean, when they say that, it's, I don't know, it's like $300 or something usually. But even even then, taking account to zero, you're gonna have to start that back over. Your parents give you your allowance or whatever those kids are doing. Um, it's just not a way to. That's just not a way to trade. I mean, literally, just go to a slot machine. You've got better odds than what they're doing. So yeah. So options again. Yeah. To sum it up, you don't need a massive win rate with options. You just need to stick to an amount that, like, I'm willing to lose this, and that's it. And you might even set that for the day. I lose this for the day. That's it. I don't care what the market does the rest of the day. I'll go play Xbox, or I'll go golf or whatever, and then it'll be here tomorrow. So that psychologically, I don't get into life coach territory very often, but that's what I would say. That's what I do, and I think it'll help you a lot in the long run.
Yeah, everything you said right there is just why I don't trade options.
Yeah, I know, right? I mean, I will say, like, yeah, we say we're kind of closer now. I've definitely moved your direction more than you moved mine, except with the exception of some of the style of some of the stocks, the all time high charts,
Well, it's what you
and just
know.
big stocks
Just
in
what
general.
it's just
Yeah,
what you know. It's what you've traded along the way. So I mean, that's
yeah,
another thing that I'd like to point out to people is like you're building. No matter what you're doing, you're building habits,
yeah,
and they can be good or bad. So understand that. Like if you're struggling and you're trying and you're still struggling and you keep falling into holes, it's because of the habits you've built. Um,
right.
there's a better way, and we're pretty good at promoting good habits. So
Yeah, absolutely. And, one more, and then
Jesus,
I'll get to boring.
what the hell happened
So
here?
I talked about this one, and this level. This is a pretty new pivot, and you were talking about percentages of the $2 to up
Yeah,
to 280.
yeah. If you can't say
This
if you
one's,
can't trade 760 to 940, I don't know what the
yeah,
hell. I don't care if it's 76 cents to 96 cents or it's nine thousand
right, right.
dollars to 7,000. I don't care if you can't figure that out. You got a bigger problem.
Yeah, yeah. And so this one, um, this had earnings. Options were prohibitively expensive on this, like $4,000, right? To Because the IV into the move and all that. But shares were there, and I mentioned, I was like, I trade ones like this and this is just an old habit of mine, when I wanted to use the work on the big stuff, some brokers allow fractional shares, and I love those for stocks that are over $500.
Sure.
I like to just be able, because then I can just operate on the percentages much easier. And so that's what that's what I did with this one. I had 5 shares of the stupid thing, and
That's perfect.
had peeled it off along the way, and do the math on that. That was pretty damn good. So I'm happy with that, and then it can set back up, and it'll show up in my option notes, here or there. But this was just one. I was like laser focused on that pivot. I wanted a piece of the move off this pivot, and so that one really worked out for me.
You know the one I'd like to just have your thoughts real quick, because I got it from you, but it worked similar to this, was Netflix.
Yeah, Netflix. So that one is
I normally don't touch charts up here, but you were like, no, this is going to $1,000. I was like, piece of Netflix,
Yeah.
we're good here. And son of a
Yeah,
bitch.
and that's right. And it was the same thing. It was not a ton of shares. I think I had 4 or something, but just peeled it off, with the fractional shares. But just a good example of kind of use the work. Facebook was kind of the same way, and really, like, for me, when we were talking about those, like way back, and caught the kind of the golden entry on some of these, that feeling of like, I just didn't really get enough of this for what
Never do.
you saw coming, right? And you never do, and so you don't pout about it. You just look for it to set back up. And by the way, I mean, Facebook down here very well could be doing that. So so it's one that's sort of back on my radar too after this drop. And what I don't get from people, and then I'll get to finally get to the boring stuff, but
You don't want to see that.
victory laps people are taking on this Facebook drop. What exactly is it you're bragging about up here? It's like I know you guys didn't actually short the thing from 720, and you didn't catch the move up. So what is it that you're celebrating with this pullback like this? They were disbeliever. They were short on it, or they didn't believe in it at 280 or 320 or whatever. So now it's up here at 547, and they're like, aha, see, Facebook's toast. I don't get that mentality. I guess it's just like something that turns them into bears. I guess it's probably losing trades on the upside that does it, but I don't get that. For me, I like to see pullbacks like this, because then I can start to see how it reacts and get some clarity on a stock that's been tough to read. That move from 600 up, I didn't have anything on that, and I wouldn't have even touched it. But now it's revisiting some spots. I can maybe get a read on it.
Yeah, 471.29 and 472.99 auto RTL. It's good to know in advance where you want them to catch on that one.
Exactly.
Not elephant in the room, but I'll put 1 and 1 together, people. I was adamant. Professor checked off on it. Beginning of the year, Mag 7, whatever you want to call them, gonna have a little pullback first quarter.
Yeah.
Did you anywhere in our universe see us trying to short those things? Anywhere?
No.
Yeah, I mean, no. And we had it. We knew. I mean, it's the two big theses: Mag 7 going down, gold going up. Gold going to outperform Bitcoin. That's what we said at the beginning of the year. It doesn't mean it's an easy trade or a trade you should have, but in my head, it's all right. Well, we're going to have opportunities to re-enter these down the road, and so far, so good on all of that. So I don't understand how someone that can go back and forth on Twitter, more of a content creator, and then somehow pick the right time to short a stock and be successful at it. That sounds like bullshit to me.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it even if they post big wins on it, they had a bunch on the other side too. And what they're looking to post is just that screen grab. And those are the ones who are a little more honest, because they actually do make the trades. That doesn't even count the paper traders and this the screenshot alterations that those guys do. But yeah, there are guys out there that go into kind of a big binary event or volatile time in the market and just pile into both sides on options, ignore the loss, post the win, get some subscribers, and go from there. But yeah, that's kind of how those guys.
Yeah.
Those guys
Load calls and puts, people. We've been there before. Real ones know
oh
that
yeah,
shit.
yeah, absolutely.
Speaking of Twitter, kind of convert over here a little bit. Twitter found gold, P. Twitter has finally found gold.
Right. At about $3,400 is when they found it.
They finally found gold. I was shocked. I was like, these guys are shit. Well, we might be done with these charts. Luckily, they ain't found the miners though, so that it's kind of like watching a really bad episode of Scooby Doo. Like they're on the right path, but they still don't know what they're looking for. So
yeah, right. Yeah, and when they're running for it, the background keeps repeating over and over like the cartoon. Yeah. So gold, my read on it is that 3,400 move. It punched through that for a little bit. That's kind of how that tends to go. And then I don't know. I mean, I want to just see it react up here. I think the geopolitical conditions are still really healthy for gold. I'm moving most of my attention to silver at the moment.
Let's go.
And then if I get back into gold, it's going to be some combo stocks. Yeah, I mean it's and this is another one too. People wanting to talk about shorting gold. I mean, good luck, I guess. I don't I don't know. It's if your plan is to short these 1% drops it's going to do as it finds its way up here, that's fine. If you're planning to short gold down 30% or something, I think you're fooling yourself. But yeah, I mean, I definitely think it's a sector. I think we have a good read on it. The longer term silver reads tell me that these aren't done at all, and we'll see. We'll see how things set back up. Silver, just, I mean, this is great to me what it's doing.
Yeah,
and breakout 36 plus. It's probably like a $4 move that it's going to make once it does that. So definitely want a piece of that.
Yeah, that 26 line on silver is still kind of it's been in my head since we were worried about getting through it. So just still a strong chart, an uptrend, and probably, like you're saying, more to go than the other one currently. So I've just loved the sector because the gold charts in general were already pretty healthy before the thesis. The silver charts were just in better shape. So that you're coming around on that, I knew that was going to happen.
Absolutely.
Just because you run out of range, and if you were right, you were going to definitely end up on all-time high charts on gold charts, and you move on to the next one. So
yeah, I mean, when you take Barrick Gold, 30-40% from our entries, like
1535. 1535 is where I got in.
You got to decide, like, okay, I'm going to look a little rotation of what I'm holding, and then where do I go from here? And to me, there's a lot of silver opportunities there, and it's just when you get wins in a sector, you rotate to things. I just rotate with some of the profit on it, and then the stress is pretty low at that point because it's like where the money came from matters to me. Like if the money I'm trading with came from editing essays for 16 hours,
sure,
I'm a little more like focused on that than if hey, I took these stocks 30-40% and I'm going to take half of that, I'm going to buy something else. And that's how trading's gone for me in general. As it's become self-sustaining, the stress and concern about it, drops a lot for me. So
I think that's one of the best things I did after the very, very first NVIDIA win I had. Was okay. I have, $160,000 I just made here. What am I gonna do? Like, how do I set up my account and just that 50K number came that I just like, oh, we're just going to take this piece of it. That's one of the best moves I made early on. So I suggest that to
Yeah.
everybody. And if you're successful even for 6 months, you should have a bulk of that is house money, or so to speak. And yeah, I'm with you. That changes the mentality so much, um,
Yeah.
to help you see a little bit clearer. So
And for mine, I mean, it's honestly similar. My Nvidia it's two, is SMCI and
coin.
MSTR.
Ooh, okay.
And coin too. Yeah, coin was a little smaller. I made like 15K on coin, but MSTR was like 60.
There you go.
So
Yeah,
you
so even if
know,
you just take 20 of that, call it house money, and build an account off that mentally.
yeah, I did it with 30. So I like 30. Your 50 is my 30, and I'm basically doing what you do. With there's like an 8K option on the side, and then there's the ER account. Those are my
Love it.
three, and that's
Love it.
and that's all. And then
Yeah, and like
you
in
know,
that main account, I mean, you're not stressing over 3 or 4%. You're
yeah,
just
exactly.
not. You're just not. I mean, I don't know your number, but I'm guaranteeing it's probably closer to 20% where you're like, all right, wait a minute. Not that you've been in that situation, but if you ever did, that's what it would take. And if you're on essay money, 2% you start shaking about.
Yeah,
Whoa, I had to work for 4 hours for that. And
right,
um,
right.
I think that goes missed with a lot of people. Just, having that. That's part of the rules, though, for me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And again, too, it wasn't. It was has never been. It was never a small account challenge, right? That is the biggest just bullshit concept that I see out there is the 100 to $10,000 challenge, or they'll even throw some more ridiculous out there, 1,000 to a million, or whatever. It doesn't work like that. You have to build something reliable. You have to fund it yourself with labor, and then you make it self-sustaining, and that's all. That's all that you want. And it's why, like, I don't think. I mean, are there people out there who do sports gambling and make it self-sustaining?
Sure.
Maybe, but um, well, I don't. They don't approach it in the way that these guys who post about it do. You know
No.
that. Because with anything, you have to professionalize, and it's the one thing I tell this to students who want to be English majors. Like, I'm like, yeah, there are careers here. Um, One thing is you just get a degree and you can just go do a lot of different jobs. But if you want to actually do this, like, I want to teach, I want to be a professor. You need to look at how you can professionalize as early as possible. Start doing the things that you would do within this profession, and don't just kind of sleepwalk through grad school and just go out there and be like, here I am. Where's my job? Like, you already have built. I've taught classes now. I've tutored. I've done this. I've taught classes at like like an urban community college setting. I've taught online. I've published papers here and there, and like, you have to do something that's gonna give you a better chance to actually get things done. So if with trading, if you're just dicking around with $150 every week and losing it and then refilling it, um, you're not building any kind of skill that's going to help you sustain anything. Because if you can't turn $100 into $180, you're never going to turn 10,000 into 18,000. It's just not going to happen. So the amounts don't matter. The percentages,
Yeah.
the discipline, the method, that's what matters.
No, that's one thing I value about our relationship. I think we've made each other level up along the way in that regard of those things. Like, I remember early in the days when you would just scatter. You would just do so much work that tickers would be all over the place, and me trying to stay a little more central. And whoa, we just talked about this one last week. To refocus, which made
Yeah.
you focus a little bit more on your end, and then you like pushing sectors constantly made me think, all right, well, if I can find one good chart, maybe I should research the whole sector, and just kind of honing that in. Um, you that's what you need to become successful. I don't think I would be as comfortable on my own as without you at this point in time. Not that I would have given
Yeah,
up, but I probably would
right.
would have been. I probably would have turned it off and on a little bit more, like I used to. Like, all right, we're just not going to trade for a month, instead of staying in here doing the work. So,
Yeah, no, right. That and yeah, for me, the seeing what those kind of tests, like, well, here's the flow. Where's it like on your end? I definitely need that. I mean, especially after stocks make some pretty dramatic moves, and the drops get a little less dramatic when you see that they're accelerating through some zone, and then it's going to hit a level, and those buys are already there. Like, they're it's already all programmed and set
oh
up,
sure, sure,
and so kind of knowing that, definitely helps a lot. And then the concept you talked about, the free money flow, um, the where you're sort of seeing what's plausible and what's not, where the whales are just kind of taking a shot. That has helped a lot. That's where the kick the can down the road thing came from for me, where you just see this outlandish flow and leaps, and it's like they're parked there, they're going to try to do something, it's going to reach a point, I'm like, I'll bet they're going to just punt this to next year. They did exactly that, and that actually, um, real estate could have really, it would have been easy to give back all the gains that it had in a couple of those moves it made if I wasn't able to read it like that. So
yeah.
that's definitely
If
helped
you
me
were
along the
moon
way
or
too.
red on real estate, that's a great example of what we've talked about here
Yep.
5-10 minutes ago. If you were moon or zero versus taking the 3 or 4 trades out of there, that's a prime example of when you can be right and your account will be wrong.
Yeah, and that's and open was the one that, like, that was great, and then it broke down and kind of stayed away. And then a few times since then, I'm like, hey, what about open? And we've got some possibilities there. There's some little trades and scalp looks and things, but there's not another big move on it that has set back up. Tilray is the same deal,
Yes,
in weed,
those are good examples.
and then it's interesting that as we went back to weed, it's different names. It's like, okay, these are the two, and then I was like, and I'm gonna throw Grow G in there, and I saw a secondary did Grow G, which I like to, you can tell who's watching.
Yeah, you really can.
But that's how sectors sort of reestablish. Solar, the same thing. You get a really beat up sector. It's like, okay, who survived? No, that's step one, and then what levels are they at, and what's the flow look like, and then we
Well,
go from there.
Bitcoin charts currently. Let's rotate back to that. What do you got over there?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Sure. So yeah, Bitcoin, you know, made this move into, like, the mid nineties. I just kept saying, like, I don't think it's going to get like a full breakdown, and that led me to make a move on those. And this is one where, um, some of those miners, it, they lag, a lot, and as some of them have diluted, for example, like, they'll lag even more. But if Bitcoin can stay even, it doesn't even have to move back to 110 or something, but if it can do like 92 to 100 and stay here for a bit, you'll see some confidence in those miners, and they'll start to catch up a bit. So
To it,
that's
not
why
through it.
several of them, yeah, that's why several of them showed up on my list this week, because from where they are,
Mm-hmm.
it
I'm
can
with
move
you.
20-30% like it's nothing. So definitely, I like some of the volatility in there.
Well, we laid out the Mara trade at the beginning of this, and we had that
Yeah,
$10 psych level, and I was like, you're gonna be able to trade this, but it's gonna be, I think I said 11, 12 to 14, 15, and that's still a 20, 25% trade, and either you got it or you didn't. But hopping in
yeah,
now, you could see. I mean, not to give away anything on our list, but Mara ain't on our list this week for a reason. I mean, there's 6, 7 Bitcoin names in there, and Mara's not one of them, and if you can't figure out that's why or that's what we're looking for, I'll
Yeah.
just tell you here now because um, yeah, trying to trade that chart on what went to 35 before, that's not the environment or the trade we're in. We're playing oversold or overextended or um, so whatever word you want to put on it, and you you're gonna again be back to a level, not through a level on most of these.
Yeah, and this one's the same way. I mean, you buy a share up here, you're gonna probably make me pretty mad. Like when I
Yep.
mean, how much do I talk about MSTR and the 274 spot and then the 300, and I'm like, and for shares for me, like 300 was it. Like that, I would not buy it again
Over.
over that.
It's a
Have what
good.
you
It's
have,
just
and
a
then
good plan. That's kind of the stuff you
yeah,
need to be planning. Exactly.
right, yeah, exactly. And so it's in 2 weeks went from at 274 to tapping 370, and then yeah, and this one isn't in my notes this week either, and it was a couple weeks ago. So so there you go. And it's one of our better sectors to read, and it's just kind of funny that, I mean, the people who obsess over crypto 24/7 don't seem to actually do very well with it, whereas we just are patient and let it set up. I don't really ever leave the sector.
Sure.
I just change how I trade it. It's like more quick hitters, and then this MSTR is going to be the leader. That's pretty much established at this point, and I just kind of load up under a level and peel off along the way as it hits these lines. But
Do you
yeah,
still have
crypto kind of.
the 100 test on Bitcoin? I mean, is that what we're looking for here? Or?
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to do particularly well up there unless it gets a reason to stay up there. But yeah, I mean, I think that 100 fail there, and hopefully, you know, higher low somewhere. I don't think you don't want to fail at 100 and go back to 78. I think that would not be good.
Oh,
Um,
sure, sure.
but that could happen too. So I guess you just sort of, um,
You
yeah,
take your
get a
percent.
piece of. Yeah, you take your percent. You take your percent, right? You
um,
don't become a Bitcoin cultist up here. That's not a good idea.
not really big on the fuel this week, but I'm a little interested in the copper and the aluminum. More so the aluminum and what you see over there.
Yeah,
Those
we'll take
charts
a
are
look here.
those charts are great.
Yeah, so aluminum had the big pullback here, and I I think it's completely fine. 220 was the area that I was, if it was going to break down, I thought it would have tested that and maybe fallen from there. But this is kind of a good higher low, and then the way it equates to me, it's with copper, obviously that $4 area, but yeah, setting up here the way that it um, didn't even touch four, and that was kind of healthy to me. So setting up here, making that move over five. I mean, all that looks
Good.
pretty likely to me. And then you pair that with what I see in um, industrials, construction equipment, and you know, tractors, and some builders, and I mean, like we're setting up for some pretty decent chunk of infrastructure spending that probably is going to materialize like 6-8 months from now. Um, 'Cause I don't think that the current trajectory of what we're doing, and tariffs are going to keep moving the market, but the market's going to want a new story, and as I don't care who's in office, government spending is what they want to see, in addition to interest rate favorability, and so I think that's what you're going to see, and then just supply and demand around the world for copper and all that is pretty favorable for for that, and then a lot of those charts will go with it.
Yeah, the tariff dip for me is, I mean, I don't know. It's not the same ballpark, but it's just the same reaction. But it's a lot like the COVID dip. Um,
Yeah,
we didn't know how long it was going to last. Didn't know, people were going to start dying. Not that people are going to die from tariffs, but it's just that uncertainty, and I think we get the similar kind of upward trend when we figure it out. It's just when are we going to figure it out? And I think that is a shorter term fix than COVID, obviously. Technically, we're
yeah,
probably still dealing with COVID. But again, that the uncertainty of it right now is just, it's hard to be long and bullish for big money. And that's going to
yeah.
fix itself. And I think the focus of the administration will also change then, and that's when you'll hopefully get some infrastructure. So yeah, those charts for me, those are the ones I'm looking at over the next month, because there's a
Yeah.
lot of good ones that are just, well, not where they should be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
And
I wasn't trying to say no names, but yeah, go for it.
I'll give them one freebie. But so yeah, for me,
That's a
FCX,
great example.
you want to get into this zone, and I just buy under 37. I don't care if it's 30 or 32 or 34. Um, you have when you have a big picture read in the sector. I don't really care that much about the range down here. I just want my average under 37, and that's it. Because I got that 46 number in mind, and I got a sell at 42 in mind, and we go from there. So yeah, and this is the hardest one to trade, by the way,
Yeah,
of the group. But I just like my pivots. Yeah, a lot of opportunity in this sector for sure.
perfect. You got anything else, or you want to get to work?
Um, no, I'll just a real quick spy
Oh,
floating,
okay, yes, do that.
and then we'll do that.
Friday kind of threw me off. Had that range for last week, and we damn near looped that. Um,
Yeah,
I I kind of leave it to
I
you
mean,
whether we're going to continue out of it or just have a poor start to the week because we're going to live in that range again. So
well, the
definitely
one thing,
interested.
if people want to rewind to last week, I said, hey, I got a call showing up. This is the first time in maybe 4 months I had a call, and it was 580 June. Um, that's looking a lot better now than it was Monday. So that's the one they're operating around, and on the downside, it's they've kind of rolled a bit, and so there's a 500p May floating around, but it's just this 500 545 June is the story to me. 545, 580 June. They're playing both sides of that, so that's the range to me, and seeing it at 545, um, that's great because I just want if we're gonna test that. I mean, it's only like $5, but how the market sets up below that on the down days and what they do with this contract, read sort of simplifying a bit, and then it's a 535 for September, which isn't that much lower than that. So I think I thought we're really out of the woods, but there's definitely an opportunity to build around here, and then 580. If that stays relevant, you'll see 600 September or 620 September start popping up. So yeah, it's getting readable again for me, and it all started with this one at 580.
What I see here is and it's more of just candle structure and volume that I'm making this assertion off of. But we had the big dip down there, the big candle, and that candle was heavily traded, almost 3 to 4 times the next two candles are. I'm talking about the big drop that ended
Yep.
up reclaiming, which that's your first signal that okay, we dropped and we had a large range, just in that large volume environment. But these next two candles aren't anything. They're still 10% candles for 7 to 10% candles, but the volume is a third of what the original drop was. So that just tells me there's not a lot of liquidity in this range. We're gonna have to make a move out of it, just to have the liquidity needed to trade. So that's what we're seeing in SPY currently. Is it's not like people are piling in and out. Is there's just not a lot of liquidity in this zone. There's not a lot of people that want to sell or buy in this zone. So it's trying to work itself out, and I think the low's in, but I also think 525 is possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And with kind of like these numbers I'm throwing out on these strikes, sort of like a rubber band, right? Like that further they get below some of these numbers, harder it's going to bounce back to find that equilibrium, because they would rather keep their positions relevant than, I mean, they could obviously roll and rotate out of them and hedge more and stuff like that, but path of least resistance matters a lot. So as they set up strength at some of these numbers, they're good spots to see that bounce. And don't chase puts comes from flush below one of these numbers in pre-market.
Yeah,
it's just not likely to last. So that's what I'm looking at.
Yeah, if I'm calling a shot here, when the market does bounce, it will bounce off of 565. That's when you're gonna have upward trajectory, and that's just my number. But that's a I think it's a 50.
And guess what? That brackets these two strikes I'm talking about.
Yeah, that tends to
580, 535. So
that tends to happen.
Yeah.
Awesome. You ready to get to work?
Yeah, let's do it.
Perfect. Like and subscribe. Link somewhere, people.